No, that's Jay, that's Ben's brother.
Yeah, it says.
Oh, Benny's in there too?
Here we go.
Hello, all. We had trouble getting on the town hall streams, but we're on now. And I'm gonna go check. We've got a couple of counselors that are not on, so I'm gonna check and see what's going on, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Long time no see, Ben. Yes. Oh. Pete's out.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, let's see, waiting room. Admit. Admit. Technology is wonderful.
When it works.
Okay, Brent, we can't see you.
Working on that. Had to switch computers.
There's been a lot of that tonight, I think. And we're not gonna have anybody in assessor, right, Catherine?
Do you need a flag? I can go over and get into the assessors.
If
Again,
Amanda puts her video on during the pledge, Amanda can have the flag for us tonight.
great,
She
thank
can be our state representative with our flag. How about that?
I can do that. Just tell me when.
Okay.
Right, thank you, Amanda.
All right, Brent, we're gonna go ahead and start, and then when we get to something we need to vote on, then we'll check in with you again to see if we can get that video going, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, welcome this evening to the regular meeting of the town of Pittsfield on Tuesday, April 6th. Apologize for the delay. Technology is technology. So if we could all please say a pledge of allegiance. Amanda is gonna give us a flag here. There we are. See the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
There we go. Thank you. And we'll have a brief moment of silence. Thank you. And the first item on the agenda is adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting held on March 16th. I'll look for a motion from counselors.
I move we adopt the minutes from the meeting of March 16th, 2021.
Second,
Tim, was that you?
yes.
Counselors, did you see any changes or additions that we need to make to those minutes? Okay, Brent, I can't see you if you want to just chime in if you say yes or no, if you had anything you needed to change.
No, I did not have anything that needed to change.
Okay, thank you. All right, all those in favor of adopting the minutes as presented for the March 16th, 2021 meeting, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that will pass. We can see you now, Brent.
Yep, yep, you got it.
Okay, great. All right, the next item is presentations, congratulations, and introductions. This evening we have school staff, MSA D53, school superintendent, and school representatives presenting their fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. And that's for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022.
Hi, I'm Sherry Littlefield, and I'm here with the business manager, Lori Glidden, and 4 other representatives from the board. And Catherine, you've got the back page of the budget today. Were you able to share that with everybody?
As soon as you sent it, as soon as Laurie sent it in to the counselors.
Okay, perfect. Before we look at that, I just wanted to let you know, because I'm sure you're aware of all the federal funds we've received as a school district this year. And I just wanted to give you a little information on what we've done with some of that money and what we're going to continue to do straight through till 2024 is when the last grant needs to be used. We started out the year looking at how to open our schools and the needs we had. We purchased a lot of lunchroom tables to spread students out, classroom furniture. We replaced hot water heaters at 2 schools. We bought another van so we could transport meals and students separately. We purchased 3 portable, which I know town of Pittsfield is aware of. We purchased 3 portable buildings, 2 for classrooms and 1 for an office building to make more room at the middle school. We've bought cleaning equipment and bottle filling stations. We've had professional development for teachers. We've bought a ton of technology, both for in-school and out-of-school remote instruction. We are currently working on the next grant that we've received, and we're looking at paving all our parking areas and play areas to extend play spaces so that we can socially distance students. We've replaced a lot of kitchen equipment at Vickery because all our meals are prepared there and it's pretty outdated equipment. So what we're trying to do, the reason I'm starting with this is we're trying to look at a lot of the big ticket items that are one-time hits that we can pay for with the federal funds and not have to put in our local budget. And so in saying that, if you look at the local budget, we were able to move some things and only have an increase of less than 0.5% this year. We did take a hit in state subsidy. We're getting $407,000 less in state subsidy for 2 reasons. Our student count is down K-12 because of remote, not because of remote instruction, but because of an increase in homeschooling. Kids that go for remote instruction are still counted as registered in our district, but K-12, we have a significant drop in enrollment because of homeschooling. Hopefully that will go back up, but that hit will impact us for several years because it's based on an average enrollment. And the second part of that, as you're well aware, valuations have gone up significantly statewide. So those 2 things together cause us to get quite a drop in subsidy. They think we have a better ability to pay because of our valuation. And we've been to Detroit and explained it, and been to Burnham, and their hit is much higher than Pittsfield's, as you as you will see. But we, as a team, made an effort to try and bring our budget in as close to zero as we could. And with the expenditures that you have little control over with teacher contracts, and this was a negotiation year for our support team, with all those costs figured in, we're still coming in at less than 0.5% increase. So I present that to you as our best effort. Do you have any questions on the budget? And it's, again, the board, there's board members here if you have any other questions.
Carrie, I think I just want to commend you and the staff for the work that you did to bring in a budget like this. It's pretty amazing in a regular year to not have increases when you're looking at valuation issues like that, as well as increased expenses for staffing and other instructional things that are mandated. That's pretty amazing in any year, and to do it with all the challenges that are going on now is fantastic. So thank you for the work that everyone has done on that, your budget committee and the staff there.
We really appreciate that.
Amanda, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Sherry, thanks for being here, and all of your board members as well for presenting this. I'm just curious, could you send us the list of everything that you've done with the federal funding and what you plan to do with the federal funding going forward? I have a couple of people ask me those questions, and I couldn't write fast enough to catch everything that you were saying.
Sure, our board has actually asked for, the Building and Transportation Committee have worked along with us for most of it. I will tell you, the first 3 grants that came in, we had a December 30th of 2020 deadline to use it. And some of the funds we weren't awarded till mid-November. So we were on screech to get portables put in before the ground froze. And yeah, I've learned a lot this year in the building process, and but we're working on that list for the grants that we've already used, but then we were just awarded another 2.3 million, and so we haven't even started the planning process for that, and that one we have until 2024. So what you do need to understand is we can't say, okay, let's pay for 5 teachers out of that money to save in the local budget, because that will impact us in our 279, what we get for state allocation. So we have to be very careful about what we pull from our regular budget and cover with those funds. So, and we don't get those funds ahead. We have to propose projects, and then we pay for them up front and then submit to get reimbursed. So it's a long process. But
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
list, it'll just take a little bit.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Sherry, are you making any instructional changes, like regular school changes, like implementing new programs and things like that that are impacting to the budget that you had to adjust for other things?
Not so much that we've had to, that have impacted the budget because of the federal funds. Like, we're working on a summer academy. Normally our summer school is our Title I students or our K-1 students or pre-K-1. But we're trying to have a summer academy for kids who may have stayed remote and, address learning loss. So we're paying for that out of those funds. We had some after school all year. We kept it remote. So we had teachers that stayed after school and worked remotely with kids that, needed extra support. So we're trying to look at some of those programming. And the new money that we're getting, you have to have a 20% set aside for those funds. So we're going to be looking at other programs. We haven't hired anybody. We're looking at, do we need additional tutors, or if we have to stay with a remote program, rather than have our teachers handle the remote students, do we want to hire, remote instructional coaches? So we're looking at all of that right now.
Okay.
Thank God we don't have to have it all spent by June, or we've got a little while with this money. Any other-
Counselors, any other questions or any other attendees here that would like to ask questions about the school proposed budget?
Can I just add that we will, we're gonna hold an information session similar to this, you know, how we arrived at the budget on, I think it's the 18th of May. It won't be the normal process. Because of the governor's emergency declaration, we can still go with just the referendum vote as long as we hold a public meeting to share the budget. So we'll hold that on May 18th and then go to referendum.
And that'll be by Zoom and people can find that information on the MSAD website.
We'll be able to, because it'll be May 18th, I think we'll be able to have 50 people in attendance, and we don't normally have that many attend anyway. So we will have it both by Zoom and as many in attendance as we can.
Okay, great. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, I want to thank you and extend our congratulations on operating our schools safely through this past year and managing all those changes and challenges. We really appreciate the work that you've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one question. What time on the 18th?
6:30.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Anybody else want to add anything? Are we good?
I think we're good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next on the agenda is meeting with Annalise Hefford, Vice President of Oliver Associates. And they are the licensed operator of our Pittsfield Waterworks and wastewater system. We have the water rate increase, timeline, meeting dates, and then updated revised water terms and conditions review and proposed timeline.
Good evening, everyone. So I assume you don't want me to go through the long dissertation that I did at the last meeting, but if you would like, I can repeat it. So I saw some heads shaking, no. So as far as the water rate increase, we had kind of briefly gone over some timelines at the last meeting, and then I sent everybody some written materials after the last meeting. And I think what we had planned to do, based on my understanding, is that we were going to try to do the public meeting May 18th, and that would drive some timelines. So I guess I should probably make sure we're good with those timelines tonight. Right, Catherine, is that kind of the intent of this?
Yes, and to go over the questions that people have. I think a basic summary would be helpful too. We have some other people on here this evening.
Sure. No, I'd be happy to do that. So as far as the timelines, since we're kind of going down that track, I'll finish it and then I'll do a really quick summary on this. We were going to do the public meeting on May 18th, and that would mean that I would have to file documents to the PUC before April 16th. And that is definitely still doable as long as we kind of all agree to where we're going, you know, tonight or soon thereafter. And then the public notices would need to go to water customers before May 4th. And then we'd have a final filing to PUC between May 28th and sometime before the 17th of June. Just that's the timeline that we're allowed to file. And that has to include all public comments and all of that. And is the reason for the rate increase, I think, you know, obviously the water department hasn't had a rate increase since back in 2009. I had the pleasure of doing that rate increase as well. And when we went through and did the budget, I mean, 10 years is a long time to go with no rate increase. And there is a lot of infrastructure on the water side and items that need to be taken care of. So part of the rate increase is O&M, and part of the rate increase is moving the system along, making improvements to the system to get it to where it needs to be. And then, so as far as the amount of the rate increase, it was about $19.30 per quarter for the average residential user. So obviously, you know, that is something that, you know, sounds like a lot of money.
Excuse me, I think we're going to ask people to Uh, Except for speaker. And the mayor. Okay, great, thank you.
Yep, so basically, with the $19.30 per quarter increase for the average residential user, that would provide a rate of around $40.20, that used to be up to $59.50 at minimum. So that's, that's at the minimum. So if you use more water, obviously it's going to be a higher number. And we talked last time also about the fire protection numbers and the importance of trying to delay that to the first of the year. So that's something that's important to mention in the summary. And I did provide you all with information on how that's calculated. And it's something that the PUC will obviously look at when we submit this. But that was a pretty hefty increase from 115,000 per year to 184,000 per year. And I kept the design of the rates similar to how they are now. And I think our goal is to try to get this implemented in the July timeframe. That's sort of the goal, but if it moves past that, it is what it is. So, obviously with COVID and everything, things just seem to move a little bit slower. But that's a basic summary. I would be very happy to take any comments or questions that you may have or had time to look at since our last meeting.
So Amanda,
I
you
have a question.
Amanda, you have your hand up. Is that from earlier or is that for now?
It's for now.
Okay.
I have a concern about our timeline now, knowing what the school district will be doing for a meeting. And if they're going to be doing their public meeting on the 18th at 6:30, and we do our public meeting on the 18th, that's going to cause some big conflicts. I know for me, it'll cause a conflict because I would like to be at both, obviously.
Yeah, it's obviously not up to me when we do this, so that's why I didn't say, why I'm not commenting. We would have to move it, I guess, if that's going to be a problem.
Have we had it happen before that the town and the school meeting have happened on the same evening?
Over the last 20 years, that did happen once before.
I'm just concerned, given the fact that both of these are proposing an increase to our taxpayers and our residents, that it's important that they have the opportunity to visit both.
So Annalise, do we have any options as far as moving our meeting from the 18th?
Yes, we can move it further. We can't really move it closer. So we can't, because of the timelines of when I have to file it prior to the meeting and make public notice. If we don't do it on this date, we could move it to a latter date that works for all of you.
So
I've been trying to keep my Tuesdays mostly free, knowing this was a little fluid. So
sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I was just going to say that's really up to you folks as to when you would like to do it.
So Catherine, do we have, should we think about moving this to June 1st? Does that not give us the July 1st timeline to start the new rates, Annalise?
It probably will slip a little bit beyond that, but that was just a goal because of the fact that there's items that can't get done. Obviously we're not going to extend the budget, so we're just going to have to do what we have to do, because it probably is important for everybody to get an opportunity to comment on both issues.
So tonight's the first night we've heard of when the schools meeting is. So we have
Right.
an opportunity to either have a special meeting on May 25th or just to go to the council meeting on June 1st, which would probably provide better attendance, understanding that the rate increase will move back. And so we'll just do less projects.
I would be open to doing a special meeting for this on the 25th. We would have to adjust our other scheduled meeting. I think that would be ordinance
Yes.
if needed.
Just to clarify, would that mean that we would not meet on May 18th? We would instead meet on May 25th?
No, I think we've got people already looking at the May 18th meeting, so I think we would have our regular meeting and then have a special meeting. That
One item.
evening, the ordinance committee was scheduled on the 25th. No agenda items as of yet, but I do assume that they'll be working on several projects. We could leave this for June 1st, but we need to understand we're just moving forward into the year. So we've already moved a ways into the year. So your choice, either day is fine.
Pete, did you have a question about the timing of the meeting or a different aspect of this?
Well, I just wanted to be clear that we're just discussing the water and not the sewer.
Correct.
Okay. Yep, I'm good.
Pete Vigil, did you have another question?
Yes, I do. The lady made reference to the necessary improvements that need to be made to the system. Could you identify briefly what those improvements are that are necessary?
I don't know if we want to go into all of that tonight. The water sewer has a whole list of projects that they want to address. Some are small, some are big, some are capital improvement issues. Are we talking a long list, Annalise, or?
I mean, it's up to you guys, but I could briefly go through some of the things that we're looking to do. I mean, obviously, in 10 years, O&M itself, operations and maintenance, you don't stay stagnant for 10 years. You have to be able to move projects along and do necessary repairs. We do have scheduled to do some work on the water tanks. Obviously, over time, they need to be inspected and maintained. So we're looking at doing some items to move those projects along. We're looking at doing our normal maintenance and repairs. We've been doing some aggressive leak detection, and then along with that comes repairs of the leaks that we find. Also looking at doing some work at the well site to do rehabilitation of the existing wells and potential study of improved water production at the well site. And also looking at a new generator at the well site, a permanent generator. And none of those things can really be done without additional rates.
Does that kind of give you an idea, Pete, on what we're looking at?
It does, and my question is based on the fact, is this deferred maintenance that should have been done over a period of time instead of, it sounds like is a significant amount of work that needs to be done. And should that be done on an annualized basis so that we don't get behind the 8 ball? And
I think that's what we're trying to do, is to do things as they should be done, the best that we can with the budget that we have right now. Obviously, we can't spend more than we have money to spend, and that's why we're kind of going through this. And I'm trying to help the town, pull all these things together with a little, tighter control on the utility and working with the staff. It's a very small staff, 2 people to do water and sewer, and the sewer system and the entire distribution system is pretty, small. So I'm there to try to help pull these projects together.
Brent, did you have a question?
No, I guess not now. No, I'm all set.
Okay, Catherine?
I was going to note that the funds for the work on the water tanks has been saved in a reserve account over the years. So those funds were available whether we have a rate increase or not. And we had planned to do the rehab for the wells, which should be done every 2 years. So that was scheduled. There is the generator at the facility. Instead of having one that we rent or go out and get, we do want a permanent generator because now there are issues with the power at the treatment plant. This is not an issue that we had before, and it is a large expenditure. So that one does require the increase in the rate. And then there'll be other projects down the road too. And there should be regular items that are scheduled for leak detention, for example, which has been very helpful since we've done it recently.
Okay, Andy, I saw your hand. You have a question?
I do. How do our current rates and how will the adjusted rates compare to towns of similar size with similar systems?
Well, the current rates in Pittsfield are very, very low compared to similar communities. Larger communities tend to be able to have lower rates. So you guys are fortunate that you have a lot of commercial businesses and pretty large water users that help control the rates. So even with the increase, your rates will be pretty good compared to other communities of similar size. So you're still going to have competitive rates. I know obviously the big users, obviously, you know, are going to see it maybe a little bit differently, but for just looking at the residential user, their rates are going to be pretty good. And actually Pittsfield's rates for the larger commercial users are very fair, the way the rates are designed. So it really is kind of a win-win situation. No rate increase is great. I get it, but it's very, still very good water rates.
Can we circle back to our discussion about the date of the meeting and whether we're gonna go ahead and, do we need to vote on that as far as having it on this special meeting?
Later on the agenda, yes, and you can change the date at that time.
Okay.
Could I just really quickly input or ask, you said that we already had people scheduled or looking at the 18th of May for items. Are these big items that are looking to be covered on the 18th of May that will still make our citizens try to choose between having to see the budget meeting? I mean, I have to decide whether or not I'm going to be here as a town councilor or if I'm going to be as a citizen going to the school budget meeting on that date.
I don't know if they would be items that would draw many people in. They're just, people have called about that night having, you know, like alcohol beverage licenses and things like that.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
Oh, I think the, just having the special meeting just to address the water rate terms and condition, having that hearing on the 25th, I think that has the potential to draw in a lot of participation from residents. So regardless of what else we might have for agenda items, I think we would want to keep them on the 18th and have this item be separate just so that we can give it the time that it might need. Okay, so I'm not hearing any opposition to that. So let's plan on having it on the 25th. If you want to put that in your schedule, Annalise.
For sure. And then I'll email, Catherine, I'll email you an updated list of what that means for the filing dates, just so you and I are on the same page and working towards those dates. I'll do that tomorrow.
And do you think that'll still get you into the July 1st implementation? It just seems like a half year, the beginning of a new quarter is a good time to have a rate increase go into effect versus like halfway into the first month of a quarter type thing.
Yeah, and I can't guarantee how, you know, short or long these things will take, but I think it's still reasonable. It's, you know, I don't think it'll make or break anything that we're doing.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to change your filing too much with the PUC because it has a window there of what, 2.5 weeks or so.
Yeah, it should be close.
Okay. Okay, anything else on this before we move on to terms and conditions? Oh no, we just did that.
Well, yeah, I just want to make sure there isn't any questions on these.
Andy's got a question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was asked, and maybe you know, maybe you don't, but that the water tower on Grove Hill, the elevation of it is higher than the one on the Phillips Corner Road, and therefore they're not able to fill the water tower on Grove Hill to the full capacity because it causes the water tower on the Phillips Corner Road to overflow. Is that true?
That is true. When that was installed, I don't know the history of it. I wasn't involved back at that time frame. It was a long time ago. That did not get installed with provisions for what you would call an altitude valve. That's something that you could put into place that would be able to manage them both to be full. So something that one of the things that we'd be looking at into the future is what would it take to do that? You know, you can't fix what happened in the past, so I don't have the history of that. And really moving forward, it doesn't really help to understand what we're doing coming up. But certainly if we had an altitude valve, which is also a maintenance item and somewhat challenging for operations, but it is a doable thing. Other water systems have them that I'm working with, and that's the reason why it can't be filled. And there's no way to do it other than do that, to install an altitude valve.
Would that altitude valve be less costly than the large generator?
It really would not resolve the need for a generator. That difference in volume really wouldn't be.
I mean, we haven't had a generator and since the system was built, and part of the issue is, yes, the power goes out, but if the tanks were full, you're able to go several days without needing to fill the tanks. So
I
if
just
we were
think
able to
that-
fill the tanks to capacity, do we need a generator? Because the power doesn't go, it goes out frequently, but not for extended period of time.
No, I think with the commercial establishments that Pittsfield is getting, be very successful in bringing into town, we really need to have a generator. We can't be letting the tanks get down low and have low pressure in the system.
But if we
That's
could fill the
another thing.
tanks, they wouldn't get as low. So,
Well, I understand the importance of keeping the tank full, and I definitely think it's something that we need to work towards, but I also think we need a generator, and we got an excellent bid. That bid is an amazing bid on that generator, and we're also trying to get some grant funds to help fund that. So with all those things in mind, I guess I still recommend the generator, but that's, again, it's my recommendation and not my decision.
thank you.
You're
Brent?
welcome.
I have a question for my own curiosity. On the tank on top of Grove Hill there, at what level does it normally stay at? Is there like a 10-foot diameter span up and down? Or does it stay pretty consistent in one section? You see what I'm saying? Does it go like,
They do move up and down, and that's something I can't give you tonight the exact elevation change. I just don't have that in my head right now. It's quite variable depending on the time of the year. In the summertime, they do drop down more than I would like them at times because of the high use of water. It's good to have big swings in use in the elevation to some degree because it's good to turn over the water, but obviously you don't want to get down too low because you don't want to lose pressure in the system.
well, that's why I'm asking it, because I assume if it's staying right at one spot, say within 5 feet up and down, that's going to be your corrosion, your biggest place for corrosion. Yeah.
Right, and unfortunately, I haven't done a study on the water tanks yet. Since I've been involved in the management of the utility, I haven't done an evaluation of what would be the optimal level and how to maintain it. So I want to be very honest with you on that. But even if I did do that, there would probably still be a pretty tight band on where that would be allowed to swing because of trying to maintain amount of water for fire protection. And pressure. So I will at some point be able to come back to you with that information, and I'd be happy to do that. I just haven't gotten into that yet. There's been plenty of other things to work on.
Okay,
I
thank
will
you.
do that. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Annalise regarding the terms and conditions and the timeline regarding that? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, so we don't have any other items for you for tonight, Annalise, correct?
Okay, great. And
Thank you for coming again tonight to talk to us about this, and the next time we'll see you will be the 25th.
that sounds good. In the meantime, I will get the terms and conditions emailed to Catherine, all fully updated with all the changes accepted, because I don't think you guys had anything you really wanted me to change on the terms and conditions. And then I'll work to getting the rate increase as a final document and get ready for the meeting on the 25th. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, have a good night.
You too. Okay, next item is community and economic development and activities, and Catherine's going to fill us in on all of these items.
All right, very good. I'll be very brief. Under Community and Economic Development Activities and Event on Route 11, which is known as Route 1110, basically our Main Street Highway Construction Rehab Project. We did receive the sample main DOT construction contract, which we could utilize if a council so desired to wrap the town sidewalk project into the state's road project. And as you know, the state has picked up the section of the sidewalk down from the railroad tracks to the back of the entrance to the industrial park. And also this could wrap in the section of the sidewalk which is downtown in Main Street. Of course, the town would still be paying for this, but DOT would be overseeing it as part of their overall project, which is for the entire road. So there are some advantages to that. There's a few disadvantages, but we did get the contract. It did look very good. I wanted to advise you of that. We also had a good development on Friday, April 2nd All the remainder of the paperwork that was needed from the Maine Department of Transportation for Haley Ward to design the sidewalk came through. So our engineer Chip Haskell will have a plan to the Maine DOT and to the town this week. He'll provide it to the town this week so we can comment on it, make sure it's what we want. I can distribute the plan to interested parties and get your comments, and then the plan and changes will be sent to Maine DOT. So we'll be ahead of the Maine DOT schedule and need to keep pushing that schedule along. Number 2 is the Main Street Sidewalk Project and multiple other smaller grant projects. The town's community development block grant of $250,000 with a match of the town's funds that were placed in escrow in the economic development funds of $250,000. Our monies are available. The grant expires this year. We did send in a request for an extension. We sent in the entire package. That has not been reviewed yet by the Department of Economic and Community Development. I have contacted them and I will continue to contact them. I assume that we will get an extension. It seems reasonable that we would. This is a project that is beyond everyone's control, and the ECD is used to working with the Department of Transportation and the delays that do happen with the federal process. And so all of our other grants were all extended. We have deadlines coming up on the tree grants, which is just getting quite close. We may be able to extend those again. Every other grant had its extension for biking, pedestrian walkway, the benches, and all the miscellaneous other projects, because obviously they all fit together. It's a streetscape for the Main Street Sidewalk Project and the DOT's road project. Number 3 is the town video commissioned by the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation. Gary Jordan advised that he just received footage from Chimbro last Friday, and the company that we had hired, Black Media from the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation, is working on that footage now. And so that will be completed and sent off to the town again to look at. And this will be the end of the video, which needs to be distributed widely. So Gary says he's on top of that. He has the footage that we wanted from Chimbro, and we'll keep moving this along. Going on to the airport grants. Number 4, the town's construction package number 2 to construct the taxi lane, apron, and T-hangar at the Pittsfield Municipal Airport is receiving sealed bids until 11 a.m. on April 23rd, 2021. And the bids packages will be opened online at that time. The digital bidding documents have been available since March 30th. There was a pre-bid conference held on Monday, April 5th at 11 a.m. Once all the bids are received, we will apply for the use of the funding and send in the grant to the FAA. In the package, bidders have to commit to the project to have it awarded by September 30th, and at that time they can withdraw their bids. Right now, all the scheduled grants seem to be online, so this is good news. So we will hope for good bid prices so that we can go forward and construct this project. We have new funding at the airport that will be coming in. We've been awarded an additional $13,000 for limited activities at the airport, which has to do with operations personnel, cleaning, sanitation, janitorial services, and combating the spread of pathogens at the airport. So once those funds are received, we will get a list of the items we can use it for. We'll decide and then go through the proper approval at the town council meeting. Other grant opportunities include the Efficiency Maine funding opportunity that was approved at the past council meeting. That was definitely a challenge. Getting the electricians out here who were certified on the Efficiency Maine listing was difficult. Most of the electricians indicated concern over the ability to get in all of the electrical devices that they would need for the project. Because of the construction of everything and everything being produced and running behind. They also were concerned with getting the work done by the deadline, which is June 30th. So we did end up with one electrician who was able to file the paperwork from the many that we talked to and brought through the buildings, which is the municipal building, the fire station, the water and sewer buildings. And so that was all filed and we are awaiting the results. I'm sure this was a very quick deadline for Efficiency Maine, so I know it will take them a little bit of time to let us know. And then if we're awarded, we're gonna have to go very quickly with the electrician that was able to work on the project. Other projects that we have for grants are many. Seems like all the money is out now. So I'm gonna flip forward just to those quickly here. We did apply for a Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund project by the deadline on April 2nd. And when we did that, we applied for the Main Street project. And I will say at this point that we are doing the video work. Part of the Main Street sewer is in excellent condition. There are sections that are not, but when applying for this project, it is better to apply for the entire project and then cut it down rather than to apply for pieces of the project and then try to increase it. So that application was sent in for low interest or no interest loan. We also asked for forgiveness on the grant so that we wouldn't pay for part of it, but because our rates are so low, according to the state, it's likely that would not be achievable, but we may be able to get some funding. We also applied for 2 Northern Regional Border Commission grants, and this was quite exciting here. We had a very short period of time to apply for these. We applied for additional funding for the Main Street project, for the sidewalk project, and put together the letter of explanation to see if we would proceed further on that project. We applied for broadband, for additional electrical work, and also for additional cost for the sidewalk reconstruction. You have to remember when we got the prices for this and started the approval and got the CDBG grant, this was now 5 years ago. So construction costs have increased. And so we made an argument for that. And we're approved to go forward to submit an entire application. So that was for a little bit over $245,000. So we will move forward. We already have the match funds. We have the federal funds that can be used as a match. So this was good. We also applied for a secondary route for the water system. This is sort of a dream project, but if there's any time that you can get it, it would be when stimulus monies were available. So it would rebuild the line on Honeywell. It would bring forward a secondary line in case our main water line was plugged or blocked or there was an emergency on the road. And again, this was a dream project. It is a $1.8 million project. We applied for a $1.6 million exclusion, which would mean that we would get a waiver. So this is out there, but we did submit it and it's still in there. It's been approved to go forward. It is probably a low potential that we'll get it. We would have to come up with $300,000 as our contribution toward the project. And so we had that all engineered by Oliver Associates and then wrote the letter of explanation, which is still pending, and we've been told we can go forward. We would supply full Northern Regional Border Commission grants by the deadline in May. And then there's a variety of other projects that we're looking at. There's a recycling composting grant that's available with a deadline in April, and several other smaller grant opportunities. Thank you.
Catherine, did you want to address the Spirit of America program now or later?
I can go through that. Councilors can talk about that. All the councilors received a packet that had a very brief update regarding the background on the Spirit of America 2021 program. Every year since 2012, we have gone through and picked the volunteer of the year. The person who we perceive is the Pittsfield Spirit, done so much for the town. Last year it was Tom Bertrand, and I have indicated that any ability that we have to go forward and have an award ceremony this year for the 2021 individual that you picked, that we should also celebrate Paul Bertrand, because his ceremony was interrupted by the pandemic hit right after we chose him. So he did not have a ceremony in which we could bring his family and friends together. So we could have a ceremony for both the 2021 and the 2020. So this is a project that the counselors have done informally. You have your list. You can choose whoever you think would be the person that you would like to celebrate in 2021. Entirely your choice. And it's a very informal discussion. One of the fun things the council gets to do.
Are we addressing this tonight, or is this just advisory and we'll do it at the next meeting? What's our timeline for making the nomination?
We'll be addressing it tonight so that we can go forward and I can submit the nominee so that we can get the all of the paperwork filed with the Main Spirit of America Foundation.
Okay, counselors.
Can I, this list, you could pick any one of these names that would be, you got Bernard Williams, you got Mike Gray, you got all these people, and every one of them have donated countless hours. And I would not have a problem voting for any of them. However, I think that, one of the names that's been kind of overlooked that I really think we ought to really look at is the memory of Chuck Chinquette. I mean, the man did a lot in this town, and he's been gone for a long time now. And I think it's high time that that he get nominated for the Spirit of America, Spirit of Town Award for us, because I mean, he did a lot of things behind the scenes that you may not even know about back then. You know what I mean? And I mean, my father and him were friends, and I know he did a lot in this town. And I think it's about time that we recognized him. That's just my 2 cents worth.
I agree with Tim.
I'd go with that.
I would be fine with that too.
Fine with that as well.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a unanimous decision that our nomination this year would be Chuck Chinquette in the memory of Chuck Chinquette.
All right, very good. We'll make the proper notifications. Thank you. Very informal process, always a lot of fun here. Thank you.
Catherine, did you have an idea of time as far as being able to have, when do they have the ceremony for this year's over in Skowhegan, and would we have ours afterwards?
So in the years prior to COVID, there would be a ceremony in September, and the family would be invited for other candidates. Now, last year there wasn't a ceremony, so I don't know if the county will do the entire ceremony for both 2020 and 2021 candidates or nominees. I would think that for the town of Pittsfield, we would do that once we can gather everybody together later this year.
If things work out okay and we have vaccination rates that go up and people are ready to gather, I think it'd be great to do this presentation in June. If we're able to do a Pittsfield Days, it'd be a great way to celebrate the town by celebrating volunteerism within the town.
I agree with that. And if we can try to plan it to have it outside, it'll allow for greater adherence to the guidelines that we know are still going to be in place over the summer, and we can gather more people in an outdoor venue.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, anything else on that, counselors, before we move on to the next item? Anything, so we'll go on to reports, council committees, finance committee. I don't think we've had a meeting since the last meeting. We do have a meeting coming up, right, Amanda?
Yes, we are meeting on the 13th at 6:30. And the one thing I wasn't sure of is, are we going to be doing it, not for this meeting? I know we decided we wouldn't meet in person until after, until the April 20th moment, but in May, would we be planning on meeting in person? And for those of us who need to use the town council area for a meeting, can we still come in on the 13th to utilize that?
That would be up to the town councilors, but I would assume so.
Okay, all right, I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I think we could use the same procedure that we're using now until the meeting on the 20th. You know, if there's more than one person that needs to come down and use the internet services or something like that, or a computer or whatever, then we would just go to separate spaces within the building so that we can meet the guidelines for now.
Okay, and just to give a heads up on what I'm looking to discuss at that meeting, I would like to discuss the budgets for our emergency services. So like fire, communications, and police department. Those are what I'm looking at trying to discuss. I think that
Oh, we lost you.
until the end of the year and try to squeeze everything in, just so that we can start getting an idea of planning for projects. And I had hoped by now we would be allowed to, you know, gather together so that we could take tours of departments and see where issues might lie on having some capital improvement projects, but obviously we're not able to do that yet. So it would be more of a presentation from them on what needs to be done. So that's.
We do have our capital improvement plan list that we can work off of in the meantime. And if there's particular
Yes.
items that counselors have questions about that they want to see for themselves before the meeting, then I don't think it would be a problem for individual counselors to go and meet to see those items. I think we obviously don't want to be chomping through 5 or 6 people in small offices and whatnot to
Of
do
course.
that. But I think one person going through with the department head would be fine. So if there are questions that people have about some of those items, then certainly, you know, reach out to Catherine if needed, or the department heads to try and set up a time to cover those items. Did you have particular items to propose for that, or you just want to do like a general overview of the budgets?
It's more of a general overview, and to see if there's any items that are like, that aren't listed that should be listed. For example, I heard that the stairs leading up to the police department really need replacing. But unless I've overlooked it, I haven't seen that in the capital improvement plans. So those are kind of things that I'm thinking of. And that one to me seems to be a pretty important one because that could become a safety issue. Though I have not actually seen them, I have heard officers speaking about them. And that's the kind of things that I'm thinking of. The roof for the building that keeps leaking for Public Works, you know, those kind of items. And trying to prioritize so that we can do that planning as we go through with our budget.
Catherine, you have a question?
Yes, I was gonna note, we did, for 2 years now, put money away, so that the department heads, the police chief and the fire chief would have funding to take care of issues in their department. So, the stairs is one that, was referred to the police chief. Items have been referred to the fire chief. So funding is available for, these type of projects. The public works garage in its entirety, including its roof, is another situation here.
Absolutely. And that's great information to have, Catherine. So thank you very much. But that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking to learn and help us plan for this year and our budgetary time.
Right. Ben, you have a question?
Yeah, I actually had happened to be looking for a capital improvement plan on the town website a couple weeks back, just for my own edification. And the only document I found seemed to be pretty outdated. Where can I get, where can I see a copy of that capital improvement plan, and how often is that reviewed and updated, and is it cycled year over year, or is it something we put in place for 10 years and work on?
Catherine?
Yes, the capital improvement plan and program is worked on each year. There is a large book, the papers of which, the documents of which are on the town website, but there is a very large book which has an entire section on the capital improvement plan for the years 2021 to 2025, because we're required to have a 5-year one. And then we also have projects in as much as possible listed for 2026 to 2030. So we actually have a 10-year capital improvement plan. So the first year is the capital budget. And then we have the other 4 years required by the town charter. And then we go 5 years beyond that. So we basically have a 10-year plan. and change items as we move along. We also have in the councilors' budget books, the whole debt service for the town and the past capital improvement plan, so they can look at all the other projects that have been worked on. And so that material for 2021's budget is on the website, so I'll go in and look to see where they moved it around to. And let you know, Ben. Thank you.
Pete, you have a question about the Finance Committee meeting? I'm sorry, Pete Vigu, you're on mute. Too many Pete's tonight. No, we can't hear you yet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a plan for every year going forward, and in the past, where do we stand as it relates to 2020 and 2021? Have those items that are identified on that plan for last year been completed? And where do we stand for 21?
All right, well, 21 would be started now, and we're starting some of the items, well, this evening. I believe we may have started one prior. 2020 has everything done, I believe, except for one item.
And what would those items have been?
I would have to pull out the plan and read them all. We can go over them if you'd like, but you know, if you want me to come over or to talk to you on the phone, I can go.
I would like to do that. And my concern, Catherine, is more in line with the condition of our facilities. And some of those items are simple maintenance related issues that over time could make it much easier than having to have capital improvements on an ongoing basis. And that holds true for the town garage and a number of other facilities that we have. And if we don't provide for those types of activities on an annualized basis, not capital, but maintenance, then we get to the point where all we have is capital projects instead of maintenance related activities.
Yeah, and we did have
And the
some,
stairs, the police department is a perfect example.
we did have some items that got completed in 2020. The roofs on the fire station and the public, the town office here were completed. The repointing of the masonry and repairs of the masonry and resealing outside, those were done. Those were part of the capital plan. I don't know if they were done in 2020, but I think they were in 2019's capital plan because we rebid them because they were so high. Am I remembering that right, Catherine?
Yeah, we rebid items several times, but the pricing was just so extensive. It wasn't appropriate for us to approve the taxpayers' funds to be used in that way for outrageous prices. So we just kept bidding it till we got really good contractors with excellent work. It was a delay, but we did get a really good product. It left us funding so that in this year, which later on the agenda is the paving work, which you had commented on today, Pete, that we're able to go forward and do some paving this year without a loan, because the council had decided that after 2 years of $706,000 loans, that there would not be a loan this year in 2021. That doesn't mean there won't be one next year. So that did leave us from the really good pricing that we got on many projects of the ability to do some paving this year.
So back to you had a question too about the 2021 projects for this year. And those projects are all in that capital improvement plan that we passed in the budget at the end of December. And some of those projects are things that are already funded through the maintenance budgets that the departments have. The police department, everybody has a maintenance budget for their buildings. It's just a matter of, organizing those projects and getting those projects bid out and completed. So, if the stairs, as Amanda mentioned, are one of those issues, there is money in the police department maintenance budget to do that, as well as the painting and the ventilation is something else that I had heard about. There's money in there. It's just a matter of getting the projects put together and bid out. Ben, did you have a question, or is your hand still up from before?
Jennifer, because they're in, I think I have the document. I think this is the document you were showing me, but because they're in this packet, that doesn't necessarily mean the projects are approved. It's a planning document that will revisit those projects year over year for budgeting purposes.
Right.
Correct? The projects listed here aren't necessarily approved yet.
So the current year projects are approved as the capital budget, and then you go in and the projects that are multi-year get approved. You have to approve projects each year.
Yeah, exactly.
Many of those projects remain the same as you move forward. Once in a while, we add in new ones, and once in a while, something's taken out, but generally things are added.
Okay, let's circle back around to Amanda and the Finance Committee. So you want to do an overview of the emergency department budgets. Was there anything else that you wanted to put on there, just so the counselors know if there's a?
No, that was the big item. I think that between communications, police and fire, that's going to take up a good chunk of our time. Part of that discussion also would be including what we had discussed last year. We couldn't do it because of timing, but would be to combine the communications and police department budgets. So we don't have the two separate budget lines. We had, I'm not sure if you remember, but we had discussed that last year and were unable to do it timing wise. So, which is another reason why I want to start with those departments, because I want to make sure that that's something that we figure out how we can tackle bringing those together. And then I was looking at May being the discussion for our public works and highway departments. Just looking going forward.
Catherine?
I was going to note on the combination of the communications and the police budget, that can easily be done. Now, I will say that there's usually money left in the communications budget. So what you may be able to do is allocate those funds from items that you would consider to be duplications and actually create other accounts. So I think it would be relatively easy to do.
That's great news, Catherine.
Okay, Amanda, can we also talk about the, Catherine and I were talking earlier this week about the building inspector position and how we're going to fill that?
Yes, and that, I think that's a great idea to do that. I assume we have to advertise for it, which would of course require approval for fees.
Well, that's already done, but it's a matter of how we're going to pay for it and whether we need to have a pay change. Catherine, do you want to speak more about that?
Because it would be somebody who may be less less experienced as our current code enforcement, so that would change the rate.
So I can update you on the entire process and what's going on, but I did look at the question of how would we pay for a full-time code enforcement officer, which of course would have to be fit into some other part of the budget. Something would have to be moved from part of the budget over to our code enforcement budget. And so I do have the cost calculated out for an experienced code officer if one can be found. Now, I will say 13 towns are searching for code enforcement officers. So this is a bit of a challenge here. We do have only one application so far from somebody who is taking the courses. And so that we'll just have to move along and do the best that we can here. We do have a process in effect now, which I'll go over later on the town manager's report that explains how things will get taken care of until then.
Brent, you have a question?
Yeah, I have it. I will say it's my opinion. We keep saying like the code enforcer, we don't have the budget for a full-time code enforcer. But yet at the same time, we keep in our mails here, we keep seeing where we need to hire another person down there for the transfer station. Now, it's just my opinion, but I think we need to we don't need another person down that transfer station. Take the funds that you want to hire that guy and give it towards the code enforcer to start straightening out some of the ordinance around here and enforce them. And at the same time, we take the people at the transfer station and challenge them to step it up a little more.
Didn't we have somebody actually leave the transfer station? So they're actually down one person?
They're actually down one.
That's what I'm saying.
Not adding a position there, it's filling an existing position that's a gap.
I don't see the need for it.
All right, well, that's something we can talk about more at the meeting. after we do the discussion on the police department and communications and fire.
Because I think we need to challenge those people down there to, we'll say, step it up.
Okay, so I'd like to circle back around here to talk about, so Amanda has some items for the committee to talk about next week for the finance committee. So I don't think we can stuff anything else into that meeting. Do you, Amanda?
I do not think we can stuff anything else into that meeting. Well, not if we want to get out in a timely manner, no.
Okay, so let's leave it at that, and then other staffing issues we can kind of address as we need to. I do want to say that I think it's very early to start addressing budgets. We're just barely through the first quarter of the year, and there's so much that can happen between now and then the end of the year in any of the departments. So I think that we need to, obviously take these discussions as advisory and try not to make too many permanent decisions in doing that, and remain flexible in our recommendations as a committee to the full council for sure.
We absolutely need to be doing that, but I think having the discussion starting now is important as well, so that we can be planning for a more permanent solution as we head into our budget season. And just to give you a heads up, I may be a little bit late. We have some contested work sessions in Augusta scheduled that day. So if I'm a little late, I will be here. I just wanted to let you know that.
No, that's fine. I'll be very brief when I discuss the code enforcement officer and the costs for the position and, the information, just so you have that information so you can start looking at it.
I appreciate that, Catherine. Thank you.
Okay, next would be the ordinance committee. We had a meeting. When did we have a meeting? March 23rd. We had a few items to discuss. We had some updates. We spent a lot of time talking about the water terms and conditions with Annalise. We also discussed the sewer ordinance and some items in there. We didn't have too many items to change in the water terms and conditions, but there were some items in the sewer ordinance, and those changes are going to be made. And then Catherine's going to follow up with Annalise about a rate increase for the sewer if needed. There was a list of works and things that need to be done. A big question was hooking in repairs. And so there's some sewer repair issues that we wanted to have a second look at. The question of having mandatory hooking in if a line is extended past someone's house that has a current functioning septic system of their own, whether they would be required to hook into the town system or not. There was a lot of discussion about that, to give a period of time that would be adequate for that system changeover. And we all agreed that we needed to work on the section about sewer replacement and repair in the case of a break and an inconvenient, not that there's any convenient spot to have a break, but very inconvenient spots for sure. So those are all items that we discussed, and our next meeting is the 27th of April.
So we are, Heather, starting our discussions this Friday over Zoom with the staff, just to go through all these items and get their input.
Okay, so you'll let the committee know how that goes when we get back into that then. Okay, and then recycling hasn't met yet. Is there any plans for recycling committee meetings yet? Are we still waiting?
We have one scheduled. I don't have it in front of me. We have one scheduled in June, I believe, Catherine. Is that correct?
That would be correct. We are scheduled on June 16th because we felt by that time we could gather everyone together and do some activities. And later under the town manager's report, I do have an update regarding what we're going to do for Earth Day.
And we're still waiting. We're also accepting nominations for that committee. We're looking for more people to actively join that committee as well.
Yes, we are.
Anybody out there listening wants to be on the recycling committee, come down and see Nicole and get the paperwork to sign up. Next,
I have a quick question on that matter,
Yes.
if I could, please.
Yep.
Have you reached out to Tim? Have you reached out to the high school about potentially having some high schoolers on that committee?
we put the feelers out on that, but I'm going to, as the meeting gets closer, I'm going to follow that up and see if I can get anything, because we had briefly discussed that, and I don't see any reason why that couldn't be, you know, that could happen very easily if anybody's interested. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Great, thanks.
Okay, next item is town manager's report, and we're looking at 8 o'clock already, and we still have items to adjust. So if there's items that can be omitted or just briefly mentioned, Catherine, that would be awesome.
I will do that. The town council has all received a copy of the town manager's report. And we will put that online for everyone else that's interested. Because it is a lengthy document, I'll be very brief. We had 3 weeks in between the council meetings. We had so much going on. It's incredible. But I did want to get some notices out to people because these are items of interest. Number 1, Pittsfield Water Customer Notice of Scheduled Work. On Wednesday, April 7th, so coming right up at approximately 8 a.m., the Pittsfield Water Department will start working to repair a broken water main on Main Street, also known as State Route 111. During this repair, there may be lower than normal water pressure, or people may even lose water altogether, depending on what needs to be done to make the repair. We hope not, but Pittsfield Water Works recommends that people prepare for this situation by filling containers with spare drinking water as well as water for flushing toilets. Shutting off hot water heaters may also be a good idea. Any questions, contact Chris Pelletier, Plant Manager of Pittsfield Water Works at 207-416-3643. All of our associates brought in one of their resource people from another community. They went out, the people were very good at finding leaks and they found some leaks. So this is a good thing to help the system. Number 2, Somerset County budget for fiscal year 21-22. The Somerset County Budget Committee will hold a public hearing for the Somerset County budget on Monday, April 14th, 6:00 p.m. in the Superior Courtroom, 41 Court Street, Skowhegan. Number 3, Airport Committee meeting. The Airport Committee Chair and fixed base operator are working on a meeting schedule for the committee to take place very shortly. We will plan to hold that meeting by Zoom next week at some point and make sure that everybody knows about that and advertise it. This is to talk about the airport lease amounts and any other fees. Number 4, shredding event. We're excited to announce that Healthy SB's second annual shredding event will be held on Saturday, April 24th, 9:00 a.m. until 1:00 p.m. in conjunction with one of the national drug drop-off days in the municipal building parking lot. The town office plans to be there in full force because you know we have lots of boxes of old records to shred. This is a lot easier than burning them. Number 5, planning board meeting. The next regular planning board meeting will be held on Monday, April 14th, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. on Zoom. The board will address a request for 2 site plan reviews for the construction of a shooting range and a self-storage building on Main Street, as well as the HEP Energy USA project development, which will be accessed by a number of paper streets. The annual consumer confidence report.
Can I stop you for a minute there? Can you clarify the date for the planning board meeting? It is on a Wednesday night.
Okay,
14th.
let me check here.
I was going to ask the same question about the Somerset County budget one, because you said Monday, April 14th, but the 14th is Wednesday.
All right, I took that off their budget notice, so that's interesting. All right, for the planning board meeting. Yep, that should be April 12th. I'm gonna go check the planning board notice there. That should be Monday, April 12th at 7:00 p.m. I'll do some checking on that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
On to the Fenler Park boat launch. We're very pleased to advise that on Monday, April 5th, the Department of Environmental Protection issued a permit by rule for the Fenler Park boat ramp. This is very good. Chimbro's Lauren Walsh, their environmental manager, worked with Kleinsmith to get this approval. There was a minor change made in the application that allowed it to go to from what would be a full-scale permit application with the Army Corps to a permit by rule. So this was great. We have the special election for town councilor for the remainder of Councilor Billings, former Councilor Billings, remaining term through December 31st. So for about half of, let's say, 5.5 months. That will be held on Tuesday, June 8th. And that will be the date that the SAD 53 referendum takes place and any state referendum. We don't believe there'll be a state one because by now we should have heard. For the code enforcement officer, building inspector, licensed plumbing inspector, as we know, Steve Seekins is retiring. He's been here for a very long time and needs to take care of himself and his family. For building permits, we have L. Tempstra, who is certified to issue MUBEC permits, which is very helpful. He will be here Monday afternoons and Friday afternoons, working Monday mornings and Friday mornings. Al will also be doing all of the plumbing inspections and be available on the weekends, Saturdays to do that too. The planning board meetings will be taken care of by the Kennebec Valley Council of Governments, KVCOG, planning director who lives here in town, for site plan reviews. And so far this will fit within our due structure until there gets to be too many, and then we'll have to sign a contract for that. But as I noted previously, other towns have outsourced this to Skowhegan and Madison, both use KVCOG as their planners. So this may be a good item for us. I'll be very quick to note that you have a legal review in your town manager's report to read. The town attorney has come back regarding the DC attorneys that requested that the town go out and survey a discontinued road area and define exactly where the roadway is on the face of the earth, something that's normally not done. But our town attorney has gone through, and I inserted her whole opinion into the document so you can read that through. If you do decide you want to go forward and survey this area and try to get these neighbors all to work together, let me know or put it on the agenda. It's not normally something that we would do. And the rest, I would note our safety training is going very well. Recreation Committee has gotten a lot of applications and may want to talk to you this evening or the next meeting about the safety plans that they'll have in effect. At the next council meeting, we will have the mowing bids come in. So that will be very good to do. And I wanted to note that we're putting together a whole variety of family activities for Earth Day because we can't all get together and do the Earth Day activities that we would at the park. So we've come up with a whole listing of different items that families can do together that we'll be putting out to people. Thank you. That was very quick.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, so we're on to new business, ordinance 21-02.
Ordinance 21-02, set the public hearing on April 20th, 2021. That the town council hereby ordains that a lot of land at the Pittsfield Municipal Airport be leased to Curtis Air Inc., being a 120-foot times 150-foot parcel designated on Exhibit A, the Pittsfield Municipal Airport lease map as Lot M, and further that the town manager be authorized to execute an airport land lease and rights agreement with Curtis Air Inc., depicting the terms of the lease for a period of 20 years with a renewal option for 2 periods of 10 years each at the beginning rate of 7 cents per square foot.
Councilors, I'll look for a motion.
Move we set ordinance 21-02 to public hearing on 4/20/2021.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on this, councilors, as far as whether we should set this to public hearing? Amanda, you have a question?
Yeah, I was reading the notes about here, because we of course are talking about having the potential rate change. And I'm wondering what the beginning rate of 7 cents per square foot relates to what the discussions that are happening on the airport committee about changing that rate are.
All right,
Catherine, would this be coming in at the new rate?
the airport committee will have to meet to discuss the rates and what they found from the different areas. The 7 cents is the amount that Chimbro was put in for their last airport lease. There is talk from the information that I received, and this is just a write-up that I received from one of the airport committee members that will disperse to everyone, indicates that we should put everybody at the same rate. So that was something they were talking about.
Is there an
So
airport?
this would then make them at the same rate?
It will make 2 of them at the same rate, but you would have to bring up the other, the older leases, and there are some very old ones up to that rate too. And so we would start to move everybody up to the same rate.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. That answers my question.
Catherine, do we know when the airport committee meeting is scheduled for?
Once it's scheduled, we're hoping it will be next week. You know, I will let everybody know and advertise that. It'll be
We still need to assign a counselor to attend that meeting because we don't have a representative, I believe, on the airport committee yet.
You have tried that several times now.
I have. I can't get any takers.
Come on, Pete, you know you want it.
Is it gonna be on Zoom?
Yes.
And I will bio out.
Lisa,
France, are you interested in serving on that airport committee?
Oh, thank you. No, thanks.
No?
No.
All right. Put me down and I'll fill in. I'll be a stand-in.
Promise it's not going to be that bad.
All right, counselors, any other discussion or questions about setting this to public hearing? I imagine we'll have another discussion at that time. Okay, all those in favor of setting this to public hearing on 4/20, which is our next meeting, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, not hearing any, we will set that to public hearing on 4/20. Order 21-06, Catherine.
Order 21-06, set the public hearing on May 18th, 2021. Order that the town council adopt a quarterly and monthly rates for the Pittsfield Water Works for metered customers, municipal fire protection and private fire protection effective 7/1/2021.
Okay, I'm gonna look for a motion to open discussion and a second on this, and then we'll be looking for an amendment to it to change that hearing date to the 25th. This is the meeting that we decided to change earlier.
Do we need to do 2 separate motions or can it be in one motion?
I believe we need to open discussion on the item that's on the agenda first, and then
Okay.
make the motion to change the agenda item.
Then I will move we adopt order 21-06.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Pete.
And then I would like to make an amendment to the order to set the public hearing to a special meeting on May 25th.
Second.
Was that you, Tim?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was writing and I didn't see. Okay. All those in favor of changing the meeting date for order 21-06 to May 25th, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we have an amended motion for order 21-06 to read set to public hearing on 5/28. Any discussion on our amended order?
I'm just curious about that 7/1 date that's in here. Is, Catherine, does that lock us in if the state is what would possibly hold us up to that? So I'm just curious about that date and how firm we have to be set to that.
So the last time that we did this, and in the other communities I was in, we would set a date, but it's going to be the date that the state decides. So if the timing indicates it ends up being 7/2, that's what it will be. 'Cause
Okay, thank you.
And at the public hearing, Catherine, do we have the option of clarifying that we wanted the fire protection to be delayed and start on the 1st of January, 2022.
Definitely.
Okay, so that can happen all at that meeting. And I'm sure by then we would have a better idea, Amanda, of what the state would be giving us for, or maybe not, because the PUC filing isn't until after that.
Right.
We'll play it by ear. And I think that's probably just a guideline too. Obviously, if the state hasn't approved everything, then we can't put it into effect anyway. Any other discussion on the amended order? Okay, all those in favor of passing the amended order 21-06 with the date of May 25th for the public hearing, please say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, that will pass. Resolution 21-28.
Resolution 21-28, resolved that the town council approve the request for proposals for the 2021 road paving program and authorize the town manager and public works foreman to seek proposals for same.
I'll look for a motion, counselors.
Move we adopt resolution 21-28.
Second.
Thank you, Brent. Discussion, counselors?
Andy's got his hand up.
We're gonna do counselors first. Do any counselors have any questions?
Yeah, I do. I do. We're doing the paving there on Central Street in the SAS Drive. Before we pave it, what is the condition of the sewer underneath that Central Street?
So
Yeah.
the sewer will be looked at just like we're looking at Main Street to make sure that we're all right. I've been told that there are not issues, so we will go out and video it anyway to double check.
Okay, we are videoing it. Okay, that was my main concern. And at the same time, it's one of the other proposals here, you get out bids out for the manholes, right? So we're gonna address all those.
So the Public Works foreman put this all together in one bid. We can try that to see how well this works.
Okay.
We'll all be together. In the past, we've done it separately and then rushed to get it done. And we, as you weren't involved last year, but last year we got a wonderful company that did the most amazing work I ever saw, very well organized. This might exclude them, but if the paving companies will do the work, then that's fine.
Okay. I got a little side note then. Do we actually have, we have the map of all the sewers? Do we actually have go coincide with that map of when these, each sewer has been videotaped or whatever, boroscope to see the conditions? So you have a running prediction of how long they're lasting or whatever.
We have a large sewer flow study that was done in 2008 to 2009. That was for the larger areas where all of the associates had pulled the manholes and found that there was more flow going. So we don't have a sewer video of every road, but we have a sewer video of what was perceived to be the worst sewer systems.
Okay. I'll hold that thought for now.
So this was an improvement drastically because we had no video until the 2000s.
Right, but I'm just thinking in the future, you think you'd have a plan to keep a record and keep progressing forward and projecting when you're going to need to start repairing some of these sewers.
Well, this is one of the reasons why we've hired all of our associates to get this all in order. 2 or 3 people can't do all this properly, which is what we found on the low rates that we've had. So we need to bring a professional company in, which when they did some water work, brought in 5 or 6 people working on this, and we're still paying the same fee per month. So this has turned out to be a really good deal for the town. So they'll work on all of this. I understand what you're saying.
Right.
But we're moving forward. Now, in order to do more sewer work, we have to have the monies available to pay the debt service. And so that's why we were looking at a sewer rate first, and then we were able to take the $85,000 reserve account amount that was required by the USDA as part of our large loan grant package out of the budget. So now we have $85,000 available to us for another debt service payment. So we didn't go forward and put another rate increase in for this year. But if we're going to make some major changes to the sewer ordinance, we might have to, you know. So that's something that's under discussion.
Just
Thank you.
because I'd like to clarify the purpose here. Brent, are you looking at having this plan so that when we're discussing paved roads, that we're keeping that timeline in mind?
Yes. So you're not gonna pave a road and then next year later dig it up because your sewer needs to be fixed,
Right,
right? So you need to coincide ahead of it.
right, absolutely. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that's what I was understanding coming from this conversation. I appreciate it.
Right. Thank you.
So in that same frame of mind as Brent is talking about there, so the SAS road has a lot of high traffic on it because of all the construction that's going on in there. I'm wondering if it's prudent to actually have this be an item on this year's paving schedule, or whether we should wait and do it in 2022 after all the work is complete. I'm just wondering about that. If Catherine, do you have any information on the timing of that?
So for this project, we obviously want to pave it after all the construction is done. And in talking to Pete today, he's indicated that perhaps we could pave this in conjunction with a company that paves at SAS, which might do some savings. I still don't have an issue with putting it out to bid. He also remarked, and I do agree, I thought that this probably would be ground, and it's not listed to be ground in the document. So that's something that we should add in. I also went through and did calculations myself. I didn't put the document together. It's a little bit different than usual. It's still fine. But when I calculated out the amount of tonnage that would come to this, and then did some shim estimates, and then the manhole covers amount, I'm way under the amount of money that we have. So I called the public works foreman and told him what I found, and he agreed that we could add some other roads here. For example, I had suggested Harrison Street, Middle Street, Hawthorne be looked at, you know, so that we could get some more roads in here. We have a limited amount of money, but we might as well fully use it.
Do you think all those items need to be put into the bid as well? Like, I remember we did it before and we bid out for more than we thought we would be able to get. And then we picked what we could put within the funding that we had. Is that the same strategy?
I think we could put 2 in. 3 might be, you know, adding 3 more might be a bit much here, but you can at least get a couple.
Okay. Pete, and then we're going to go to Andy to see if we answered his question in discussion or not. Go ahead, Pete Lodgedice.
Oh, so with those 2 roads that you mentioned, we'd also look at camera in the sewer lines, I would assume, as Brett brought to attention.
Yes, I remember in the years in which I got here, and it was always talked about that everything always got dug up afterwards. And so we've tried to avoid all this, and I think we've done well, but we've been lucky in how we've done it. So videoing them, which we talked about doing with a better sewer budget, not having that $85,000, having to go set in a reserve account in order to keep the loan, and having that exemption taken off back in December, that gives us the ability to video these each year now, which is good.
Okay. Andy, did your question get answered in the discussion we had, or did you have another item to ask about?
It did not. And the question I have is I can't find in the internet, other than the agenda, the backup. So what streets are we proposing to pave?
All right, very good. The streets that were proposed by the public works foreman were Central Street, and that was a street that I had brought up to him several times, just because the pavement's starting to come off, and if we don't do something with this, we're going to have a big problem. It also has massive traffic and is a cut through with the recreation fields and all the children out there and everything. And SAS Drive was proposed by the public works foreman just because of the damage to it over the years, and to sustain it, because we're going to have a major plant out there. I then went and calculated that out myself and thought, well, we have $150,000. We should more fully do this, and suggested that we look at Harrison Street because of its condition, and that should be a relatively easy one to do. Middle Street, the Public Works foreman said that was really too wide and would take up too much tonnage, and the Public Works foreman suggested Hawthorne Street. So there would.
Okay, so my question then, Catherine, if those are the only streets, and knowing that the last 2 years has been a lot of paving done, but what is the long-term paving plan? What is the frequency of paving a road? Is it once every 10 years, once every 15 years? And whatever that plan is for the town, will this amount of paving annually keep us up with that? Because I can't believe paving a couple roads is going to keep us up. So we're going to find ourselves further in a hole.
You're exactly right, Andy. We decided the council actively decided not to take another $700,000 loan this year because of the accumulated payments. We wanted to break between those. And that's why we don't have any large scale paving projects this year. That was a decision of the 2020 council in the budget passed in December.
Well, I guess it'll have to be reassessed in the next budget because
yeah,
it's costing us more. You're not saving any money by not spending the 700. You're going to spend more because you're destroying the base of the roads.
Well, it's a matter of, we were able to utilize the Pittsfield Future Funds for payments. So we basically borrowed it from ourselves because it was less expensive than going out and just getting a loan flat out for it. Personally, I would rather see not taking a loan and just absorbing that expense on a yearly basis within our tax base, because I think it's the only way we're going to be able to get ahead on it. But that's a big jump, and that's a hard pill to swallow, especially when we're talking about a water increase in the same year. Pete, thank you.
You're muted.
Pete, you're muted. Oh, where'd you go? Pete, you're still muted.
Okay, I'd like to remind the council that there are two new industries in this community. The tax base, I'm just in round numbers, going to suggest and guess will increase by as much as $100 million this year. That should justify this community enhancing and improving some of these streets. Understanding that potential income. I'm also understanding, after having a conversation with Catherine, that we should know here relatively soon what the appraisals are going to be for these buildings and the contents. I would ask the council to consider this moving forward, because I just ask you to consider Forest Park. The streets in Forest Park haven't been paved since they were built. We're talking well in excess of 50 years. And we expect these people to pay their taxes, and it's up to the community to satisfy their street needs, because as Andy just indicated, if you don't maintain them and take care of them, it's going to cost us far more to recover what is left or what little is left.
Yep, you're right.
So I'd ask the council to consider that and build it into their thought process, even for this year.
Well, we can't do anything about changing our budget for this year because we are not going to be doing any budget reconciliation type stuff anymore. But we certainly are going to have an eye on that for the 2021 budget. And I think we really need to wait for those valuations to come in so that we have an idea of what we're dealing with. I'm not a huge fan of spending money before you know you have it. And if we don't know what that evaluations are going to be, then we don't have anything to guess on. Otherwise, we are just guessing, and I don't think it's good planning to be planning on guessing. I think we should have numbers to work with. Amanda, your hand is up again. Is that a new question?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I just I just wanted to clarify, Catherine, that I have the streets right here.
All right. very good.
So I know that we said Central and SAS with the addition of Hawthorne, and you said an addition of another street as well, but I guess I missed that.
All right, so I think we can add one more in. I had suggested Middle Street due to its condition. The Public Works foreman said it would be too wide and take up too much tonnage. So we do have Harrison Street, which is the entrance for, a lot of businesses and recreational pursuits that come in from the airport, come in that direction, and that road is seriously deteriorating. That should be an easy road to pave.
Okay, thank you.
So I would note, Pete, just to your mentioning of the Forest Park area, there's 2 items on the Public Works project list for this year. And both of those are listed. One is roadside brush removal, and another one is replacing culverts on, it says on Hemlock. I'm assuming it's Hemlock Street or Hemlock Ave. That's due to be replaced in 2021 as well. So there are several items of work on the Public Works list this year that aren't paving, but they address items that need to be done before paving can be done. And that was one of the thinkings of doing things in the off year that we don't have large paving projects, that we would give Public Works enough time to address some of these things. Like there's a lot of culvert work that needs to be done, and they can address those culverts in the years prior to actually having new pavement putting down. So they're not scrambling, trying to do an entire street worth of culverts like we had to do on Snake Road and Higgins Road in the last couple years. There was a ton of prep work to do before actually having those paving projects done. So this will give them time to actually get some of these other projects done in preparation of paving projects.
Just to clarify, so I make sure I understand where we're talking about, Forest Park, is that where Birchwood Terrace is?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So counselors, any other discussion about and we're just talking about a request for proposals. Catherine, it sounds like we think it's a good idea to add a couple more there. Do we need to reapprove that again, or do you want to make the changes?
No, we don't. We can make the change. So SAS would be ground. That I do agree on. We have Central Street, Hawthorne, which is by Central Street, so that'll be good. You got a nice entrance to the town. Those are heavily used roads. We also have Harrison and Middle. We could try for both, but I do think we would have to drop one eventually.
Well, if we put them both on the bid, then we'll get pricing on them at least and be able to have something to go on.
Oh, that sounds good. And remember too, I know you didn't want to use it, but you do have that $35,000 that you put into reserve for paving. So you do have that.
So we have the option, if the bid comes close with the 3 roads on there and we need a little bit more to make the difference to be able to do all 3 projects, it might be prudent just to do it when we have the bid to do it.
Yes, correct. That way we can do more.
We have some flexibility there. Any other discussion before we vote on resolution 21-28?
I'll just have one more question.
Yep.
Middle Street, why Middle Street instead of, was that Forest Street that's on the other side of Hawthorne?
Middle Street has some severe deterioration that's taking place. But if you wanted Forest Street, that's fine too, if you wanted to do them all together. I
I was
think,
just thinking there's that really big dip on Forest Street that gets worse every year. And that's a heavily used road as well because of the farmer's market. I mean, I'm indifferent either way if we choose Middle or Forest, but I was just curious why.
okay, out by the farmer's market, that used to be called Forest, but we're calling the whole thing Central. So it was all Central.
Oh, so that's included in the Central. Thank you.
That's okay. We all remember the old names.
I don't. I'm like, what street are you talking about? Okay, all right. Any other discussion? Phantom streets or anything else?
We have to talk to Google too, because they still list it as Forest, just an
Oh,
FYI.
really?
Yes.
Okay. Counselors, all in favor of resolution 21-28, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, not hearing any, that will pass. Did we have a timeline, Catherine, on when that's going to come back to us with proposals? Is that in there?
It will come back as soon as, well, the Public Works Forum I had in here to come back at the end of May, and I counted out 3 weeks and made it May 7th. So the
Okay.
come back on May 7th, and then it'll go to your next council meeting. That way we get it done as soon as possible to see where our standing is.
Great. All right, resolution 21-29.
Resolution 21-29, resolved that the town council waive the bid policy, chapter 2, administrative code, section 106, to accept the proposal from Haggerty Plumbing and Heating, Inc. of Buxton, Maine, for a total to not exceed $20,732 to provide inspection and cleaning services of the 2 water wells and general maintenance on the high lift pumps.
Okay, we'll look for a motion, counselors.
Move we adopt resolution 21-29.
Second it.
Thank you, Brent. Counselors, any questions or discussion on this motion? This is one
I'm
of the main
assuming,
issues you've
I'm
been-
assuming we're looking at waiving the bid because there's limited contractors that do this work.
Catherine?
There are definite limited contractors. Haggerty is the only one that's bid in the past. This year we did get a bid that just came in and it was a lot higher. So Frank does a wonderful job. He hauls in all of his equipment, is very professional, and does a nice report. So a very good company.
Just to confirm, this was already in our budget, correct?
Correct. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
We have to do this every 2 years.
Any other discussion? Okay, this is one of the maintenance issues that Annalise was talking about. All right, all those in favor of passing resolution 21-29, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that will pass. And we'll move on to 21-30.
Resolution 21-30, resolved that the town council approve the request for proposals for the library window and trim painting and authorize the town manager and librarian to seek proposals for same.
Counselors on the motion,
Move we adopt resolution 21-30.
thank you.
Second it.
Thank you, Pete. Discussion, counselors?
My own knowledge, that the library is a historical building, right?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I
Sorry.
said, the library is a historical building, so you have to stay with the painting surfaces, right?
Yes, yes, there's specific requirements.
Catherine, is this coming from the reserve account or did we put this in our budget? I don't see an amount as
So-
part of the resolve.
It wouldn't be, because we don't want everybody to know how much money we have. But in terms of the monies, in the past, we had put this in the budget, so it had made the budget go up and then down when it was taken out. So now we're putting this type of work into the reserve account where we think it should be. So
Okay,
it's
great. Thanks, Catherine.
available in the reserve.
Any other questions, counselors? Anyone else have any questions about this item? Okay, not seeing any, we're going to go ahead and vote. All those in favor of resolution 21-30, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, not hearing any, that will pass, and we'll move on to resolution 21-31.
Resolution 21-31, resolved that the town council waive the bid policy, chapter 2, administrative code, section 106, to accept a proposal from Logically of Portland, Maine, for a total to not exceed a one-time fee of $1,644 for onboarding and reanimation, and a monthly fee not to exceed $536.26 to provide managed service provider services for the town's IT infrastructure for an initial period of time not to exceed 1 year, renewable by the town.
Move we adopt resolution 21-31.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, counselors?
Catherine, just so that I'm clear on this, this is specifically to back up the server, but not to give us a new server. Is that correct?
This would be the company that would work with the town to provide assistance each time there's an issue with any of the computers in the town building, specifically for all of the town offices. So they would provide services as well as to do proper backup to the cloud, and to provide us with any type of assistance that we need when we switch out, like a server, for example. The server is not in this price because it's a contract for IT services. As you know, several of the town staff, myself and the deputy treasurer, have done IT services until the last couple of years, and so we're able to keep things going. And then the last couple of years, some changes were made, and we've had to change those things back. And we really need to have a professional company come in and assist us, and specifically because we're on the first of the 3 tiers of the Trio financial package. That package is starting to have issues, and you know what some of those issues are because I've been telling you about them, and it takes up a lot of time to straighten these things out. So we want to move to the next level, and to do that, we need to upgrade our equipment, which is the server. We have a very old server, but it was rebuilt in 2014. At a wonderful price. It's worked really well, but it will not be a good platform for the more upgraded financial system. So we need to upgrade here. And so this company would work with us to make sure those upgrades were done properly. The upgrades would not be in their $536 a month. That's a professional fee to assist with all of the issues with the computers. Now, we can take care of most of the issues, but there are problems with the Trio financial system. And if we're going to switch over to the second tier, which most towns are doing now or have already done, we need to have some help to do that.
Just to clarify, because I apologize, Catherine, my thing froze and I only heard part of what you said, but we budgeted for a new server.
Correct.
This company would help us move from our old server to the new server, but they would not be the ones who we would be purchasing the server with, or would we be utilizing them to help us find the correct server for what we needed?
All right, I would think that if we're going to pay them each month, we want to get our money's worth, so we can have them assist us in finding a server. Now, we're perfectly able to go out and get our own server. We could get one with a good pricing and make sure that they check it over before we purchase it. But we do not have to buy the server from them.
Okay, great. And one last question, just because I'm curious, underneath this monthly fee plan, I've only done a really high level review of this proposal. Would they be able to help us with our internet, our website internet changes that we're looking at, or is it only for infrastructure?
All right, so what type, are you talking about updating the website?
Yes.
No, we have to do that ourselves. Now, if there's some problems with the internet, with the hookups, with everything, they can assist with that. And they've already done some work for us, off to the side to help us out.
Okay, thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, I will note that we did, over the years, we've tried different companies, and we have to have a company that is truly up to date on municipal software. This is the only company that towns have recommended, and many of them have gone over to this company. And the Trio financial system, which we have with Harris, this is the only company that they have recommended. And we have tried other companies, and then we have to fix things afterwards. So it would be good to have a professional company, even if we only had them for a year. When we got switched over, this will be an improvement.
And this puts us in a good position as far as getting the additional level of the Trio for functionality.
Yes, that would be correct.
Any other questions regarding this item, counselors? Anybody else have any questions about this? Pete?
Just an observation. when I come into the town office or I go into Catherine's office or some of the other offices, I see boxes and boxes of paper, which would tell me that that is the filing system that we use instead of an electronic filing system. And so then the question is, who knows where everything is? And how do we account for it in terms of its accuracy, in terms of whether it's updated or not? How do we know? And we're in a new age now. And when I think of all the paper and what it takes to produce the paper and the documentation and maintain the files with accuracy, I'd ask the council to consider in the future that we are in a new age of technology, and we should move in that direction, because I believe there's a significant cost associated with moving all this paper and not utilizing technology that allows the staff to have access to it. And it's called efficiency, it's called a cost, but also it's transferable from one person to the next, or one administration to the next, and one department to the next, so everybody can get online. And if the town manager wants to access the records in the highway department or other departments in the town, they can do that without having to go to a file and see what there is for documentation, if there is any. Just a thought process that should be considered, and certainly I would suggest that we evaluate the potential for grants to support that effort.
That's a great idea, Pete. It is something that we've talked about, and Catherine has costed it out. Catherine, was it like $30,000 or $40,000 to do the digitization project?
To do the digitization of everything was approximately $85,000. So we do have a small budgeted amount to start that process. Just so that we're aware, the town does, the employees do have hundreds of thousands of documents available to them, but we also have a lot of paper too.
Yeah,
So
and a lot of that's historical, but you said some of it's gonna leave on the shredding day.
yes, some of it is leaving on the shredding day. This is true. We're actually, when you were down in the council chambers, there are boxes down there for that purpose.
Great.
But again, I asked you to recognize the fact that historically, some of this information might be of value over time. And so just to bear the expense of handling and rehandling and determining what gets tossed and what doesn't, electronic filing is a significant reduction in cost over time for everyone, and it's far more efficient.
All right, so Amanda, make a note, Finance Committee, let's see how we can fit a bigger digitization project in for next year.
No, I agree with that. That's why we did a small amount this year, given that we didn't want to increase the taxes too much on people. But Pete, if you know of grants that are out there to help us fund the additional costs that we didn't fund this year, that would be phenomenal information for us to have. I remember when Chimbro went through that digitization process back in the early 2000s, because I was working in that office helping with scanning all of those files. So if you know of grants, we would appreciate that information.
I think it should be evaluated.
So, Mayor, I wanted to note that we do look for grants for everything continuously, and that has not come up as of yet. Hopefully at some point it will. When stimulus monies come out, this is a time when you have to look every day to look for grant funding. And right now we're in a stimulus period, whether, you know, we agree with it or not, and putting all this money out, it's there. So we should use it if there's something that's available. And one of the purposes for getting a new server is to have the capability to add on digitization instead of trying to pile everything into our older server. So this all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and this is something the council, I can remember we've been talking about this for probably at least 3 years. Jason?
Just to piggyback on that, I know there's some companies out there that when you digitize things, it also makes it intelligent. So instead of having an unintelligent, say, PDF that nobody can search, nobody can find things, you got like a town charter that's 700 pages that nobody can do a control F and find a certain thing that they're looking for. There are companies that will make that an intelligent document where we can search and click hyperlinks and get to the certain information that the citizens are looking for. So we might want to reach out or investigate companies that can help us with that too.
If you know of companies that you've used through work or maybe have come across documents that you've seen that they've done, maybe pass that information along to Catherine and to the finance committee, and then we can actually contact those companies to try and get an idea of how much money we need to set aside. But I'm a huge fan of, if you talk to somebody and they have a company they've worked with that worked well for them and did a great job on a project, I'm all for, going to that company. We have to bid it out, but certainly having a good recommendation that request somebody to put a bid in is always a good idea, I think.
Sure, I can look into that. I mean, the companies that we use are more for design and old drawings, archaic drawings and whatnot, but I'm sure it's all kind of similar. So
that's great.
I'll help with that. Sure.
Catherine, was some of that investigation that you were doing into that $85,000 cost, was some of that smart technology part of that? Because I know we have really important ADA requirements we have to follow as well. So that when you scan documents, it can actually be read by a reader for somebody who's not able to see and read themselves.
It was not, that figure was from bringing in several companies to go through and look at everything that we have, which is rather extensive, from the 2 safes and then all of the storage areas. So no, but that is a good point. And we did talk with the companies about that.
Okay, so I'm making note of this for stuff for us to discuss this summer.
Great. Okay, let's get back to our item here. These are always great conversations, but let's get back to our item here with Logically of Portland. Do we have any other discussion specifically about this item on resolution 21-31? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on this then. Resolution 21-31, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's going to pass. Resolution 21-32.
Resolution 21-32, resolved that the town council authorize the filing of an application at the Maine Department of Environmental Protection to extinguish the sewer easement reflected in the Town of Pittsfield Industrial Park Expansion Site Location Permit, and upon approval by the state, file amended paperwork at the Registry of Deeds as approved by the town attorney.
Move we adopt resolution 21-32.
Thank you. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, counselors, questions about this item? This is in regards to the industrial park.
Administrative item in which we had a company, Innovative Specialties, is going in and needs to build on the middle of the different lots that were sold to it. And there is a old sewer easement in the original plans listed. So we worked with the company and with their engineer and our engineer to determine that the sewer easement is no longer needed. So we had to do that certification and then file with the Department of Environmental Protection to revise the site location permit.
This actually helps move along their development then.
Yeah.
This item. Okay, counselors, any questions about this? Anyone else want to discuss this item? Okay, not hearing any. All those in favor of resolution 21-32, please say aye.
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 Not hearing any nays. Then that will pass. Last item Resolution 21-33.
Resolution 21-33. Resolved that the town council authorize the town's involvement in the Somerset County Economic Development Corporation countywide broadband feasibility study and commit the town's local share of $3,900 for the study to be paid when funds become available, however, no later than January 31st, 2022.
Move we adopt resolution 21-33.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Pete. Counselors, discussion?
Catherine, just to confirm here, when we're paying this, it's a feasibility study. But are we looking to, what are we looking to get out of that? I mean, I know you discussed in our description here the Route 2 and Route 100 and areas that really don't have good internet, high-speed internet options. But I'm curious what we're looking at getting here for this.
So this is part of the Somerset Economic Development Corporation's plan to do an entire Somerset County phased-in broadband approach. So rather than each of the towns running out disjointedly working on a project, we will be part of the Somerset County in order to put together the information that's necessary to go forward to apply for grant funding. So currently, when you call the state of Maine regarding broadband, our chart, which I've expressed to you previously a few years ago, indicates that we're at 100% everywhere. And we're really not at 100% everywhere because there are sections of the community further out on specifically Route 2 and Route 100 that just simply do not have broadband at all. And so the only way the state indicated that we could get a correct record, because right now we're at 100%, so why would we ever get a grant? So the only way to have a correct record is to have a survey. And so we can easily join this effort and be part of a professional survey rather than trying to do it ourselves. We did surveys, written surveys at one point, and we did telephone surveys, but we really couldn't get enough people to call back in for good response rate. So this is a way to have a professional company do it so that we're part of this overall effort, so that if several towns were put together, let's say Palmyra is usually grouped with Pittsfield, or Burnham is, or Canaan is grouped with Pittsfield, a regional aspect gets more points on an application for broadband than does one town working alone.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Catherine, when you talked a minute ago about surveys that we've participated in before, are you talking about the one that SBDC did a few years ago when Heather Johnson was there, where there were cards sent out to homes and is that the survey where we didn't get enough people really to respond?
There was a survey that was done by SBDC a number of years ago in conjunction with KVCOG, and they really did not get good response rate. The town also did its own survey, sending out letters to those roads where we had heard that there were issues, and people were using rather unique ways to get broadband or any type of internet services, and had their children out there needing the internet, and they just, couldn't have it unless they went and sat in their car with some of their different devices that they had set up. So we did our own personalized survey by calling people along the road and sending out surveys. So there were two surveys done. One, which was the SADC older survey with KVCOG, and the town survey.
Okay. And I remember at that time, Route 2 was still identified as a weak spot and down on Route 100 too. So it hasn't improved too much, I don't think, since then. Amanda?
Just to clarify here, I mean, if we've done these kind of, I know that you're talking about doing field audits underneath this and GIS type program, which of course is great mapping systems, but how are they going to try to collect this data to make it so that they're actually getting the data for what we're putting in if previous studies have not been good?
So the previous studies were done I wouldn't say as scientific as what this will be. This will be a professional study that will be certified that these are the results. So I think that it would be listened to much more than a survey done by the Pittsfield Town Office or even done by KB Cog and SCDC by themselves, you know, with all
So Amanda, in the proposal here, it says they're gonna drive all the roads, the private roads, the long driveways, identify the map areas, discovering the gap areas. And that was definitely not something that was done before. It was more of a voluntary survey that people, you know, you send them a card and they filled it out and sent it back. So just the nature of the surveys that were done before had a lot to be desired and a lot of gaps in it just because of the way the studies were designed. And that was probably hampered by funding.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Brent, did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Anybody else have any questions or issues they want to discuss regarding this? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on resolution 21-33. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that will pass. Discussion items.
There are none. I fit them into the town manager's report and into the economic development. That discussion item will be just for when we have the financial reports. Thank you.
Great. Counselor,
Counselor Donahue.
yes.
I've got to leave due to a prior work commitment. I've got to be at 10 o'clock. I wanted to wait until everything was voted on before I left.
Okay.
If it's okay with the council, I'm gonna leave right now, so I'm not late for work. I don't normally work on Tuesdays, but I got roped into this one, unfortunately.
Tim, did you want to do a quick counselor report? Did you have anything to share with the council before you go?
I have no report. I'm just thankful that of all the ideas and the people that attended and on Zoom and I think we need to take seriously Pete's recommendation of getting everything digitalized as soon as we can within means to get rid of because that's the way of the future. They've already done it in all these different things. And also I'm glad to see that things are still going well for the Puritan and jobs are coming. And I know 5 or 6 people that have been hired down there and they're pretty happy with it. And I think things are considering everything and what the times we're living in, I think they're going pretty well. And I wanted to thank everybody for their input.
Thanks, Tim. Be safe driving to work and
Thank
back.
you. Again, I apologize for having to cut out a little bit early, but unfortunately, that's the times we're living in. Thanks,
Well, we're
folks.
pretty much done, so thanks for hanging in there.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to scooch over to Pete Vigil. Do you have anything for this evening?
I do. How much vacation can a town employee accrue over time
I think that's in
before
our
they lose it?
personnel. It's in our personnel. I didn't bring my binder with
Pardon me?
There's a maximum for both vacation and the maximum for sick time. I just don't recall if it's 240 hours each.
Did you
So
catch that?
6 weeks,
I believe so.
6 weeks.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
I believe so. I'd have to check it, but it just seems like it's 240 hours.
Okay. And so currently, how many hours do the town employees have accrued over time on vacation?
I would have,
Do we know?
I would have to look at I don't keep the accrual rates. I would have to look at that, but it's a document that we do as part of the audit. So they're actually working on it now.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
All we can have is 40 each.
Have a good one.
I have a question on that note. Can a town employee take all 6 weeks off at once?
When they had, there was a loophole in the personnel policy, which the council took care of, so no longer, no. And
So
what would happen?
what is the max?
Yeah,
Right.
what indicated is that if somebody gets 2 weeks, they can have it. If they get 3, that's it. They're not having 10 or 6 or, combining things. We had a loophole, it was taken care of, and
So a
now
person can take 3 weeks off in a row.
if they get 3 weeks, they can take 3 weeks. That's reasonable.
Okay. Thank you.
Pete, did you have anything else?
The only other thing is, as it relates to overtime, how does that work in terms of accruing additional time off? How does that work?
So
Is there a limit? Is there a limit?
Are you talking about comp time?
Well, there is no comp time. That was part of the loophole that was all taken care of. And the language changed so that you couldn't take all that comp time, stick it with your vacation time and then take off, because we had to pay your comp time and get rid of it. So because of the language and the way it was worded. So that was all changed. So there is no comp time. So they're paid each week. So there is no, the overtime is paid. So there's no overtime on the books.
Sure.
Now, there was accumulated amounts that people had. And when we change that, you're not going to take their time away that they have, but they have to.
No, and I agree with that, Catherine. And my concern is the past. And in some cases, overtime was accrued as well as the vacation time for time off. And the reason why I'm bringing it to your attention is that it is illegal to do that. Illegal to do that, to allow overtime to be transferred into, say, vacation time. It has to, that cost has to be identified and accrued as an expense on a weekly basis, hours worked by the week, and compensated at that time, not to be able to accrue the time for a later time, call it vacation or time off.
Well, that's what we do. Comp time would be put with the vacation time, but that can't be done anymore, and there's no comp time. So overtime is paid as overtime. It has to be.
Yeah. Yes, I just wanted to make sure, because the town would be jeopardizing itself if that was allowed to continue.
No, we don't do that. And
Perfect.
but the comp time would be saved, and then the comp time would be put with the vacation, but that's all been fixed, so that can't happen anymore by language change.
Good, thank you.
Right, Andy?
Thank you. I just have 2 items. One is I do want to just bring back what Councilor Frost brought up about the transfer station. I use the transfer station as a resident. I go there every Saturday, and 8 out of 10 times, the 2 people working are sitting in the building. You don't need 2 people working all day on Saturday. And if someone has left, you don't need to fill the position. It's an opportunity for the town to reduce its costs there. And then second, what is the town's policy on employees using their own vehicles during work time? Are they reimbursed for that, or what is the policy?
If, for example, I use my own vehicle, I'm responsible to do my reimbursement sheet to get reimbursed. So if somebody else uses their vehicle, they're responsible to do their reimbursement sheet. If they forget to do it, that's, stupid, but I suspect that not everybody submits every mile that they run. But
So
they
in the case of the town foreman, is he using his own vehicle and getting reimbursed for that?
He has put in for reimbursement before. I haven't seen reimbursement for a while, but he has been reminded he needs to put in for it. If he's going to use his vehicle, he's supposed to be reimbursed.
The 2 concerns I have is, one is, why would we pay a town employee that we have trucks for his vehicle? And then second, how do we know that if he's not putting in for reimbursement, how do we know he has the adequate insurance? And what liability is the town assuming by allowing that to happen?
All right, so we have to check on all of the vehicles of the people and the driver's license for those that use their own vehicles. So that is checked. And in terms of if we have adequate vehicles, there's no reason to use our own vehicle.
Yeah, with the
vehicle.
amount of pickup trucks the town owns, I just don't know why we're paying somebody mileage in their pickup truck. It doesn't make any sense to me. So,
The pickup trucks are available and they're going out, they would use the pickup trucks. There's no reason to use your own.
well, I don't think it's happening, Catherine, because I observed him driving his truck. So,
If you can give me some discussion at some point, give me some idea of what's going on, that would be helpful. We can
yeah,
talk.
well, I don't think it's any more complex than that. Is he's during the day, which I assume he's on the clock. When he's going to projects, he's arriving and driving and using his own truck. And if the town's not paying for that, I want to hope we're not taking on a liability. If we are paying for it, I think we have other vehicles. I mean, there's a fleet of pickup trucks in this town. We don't need to be renting other trucks.
All right, so this is during the regular work day. This isn't.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, thank you.
All set, Andy?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Counselor reports. Amanda, do you want to go ahead and go?
Yeah, sure. My battery's dying, so.
I kind of
let's-
thought we might be getting to the end there on your battery.
I really need to replace this phone. So I just had a couple of things. First of all, I would like to thank our audience members for coming today. I think it's wonderful. I think this is the most we've had since the beginning of the COVID pandemic come to our meeting, so that's very exciting. Also, I just wanted to make a request for the website to be updated in a couple of places. I've noticed that I know that there have been changes made, but I noticed that the committee pages still have not been updated to reflect who the committee members are on those committees. I was trying to find a name for somebody and I couldn't find it because I don't know who's listed on what committees. And then if we could please make sure that we update the counselor information. I know some of this just recently changed, but I did notice that Jason's email address is still not listed and Brent has not been listed yet either. So those were just a couple of attention things I'd like to see taken care of because I was trying to provide information to a constituent and I couldn't because we didn't have it on the website.
All right,
And
I'll remind the staff, and you do have, that should be updated. You do have your counselor sheet too, that has everybody's contact information on it.
I don't have a counselor sheet, Catherine, so I don't know.
Did we get that updated when Brent was
Yes.
elected?
Yes, you did.
I could get a new one. I don't know where it is. Do you want to email us all a copy?
Give out new ones.
I know, that's what I'm like, okay, if we got it, I don't know where it went.
That's okay. We can give out new ones. We give them out several times during the year.
Okay, great, thank you. And that's all I have for today.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Pete,
I have no report this evening.
Jason,
I do not have a report for this evening either.
Brent,
I guess I got a couple of things. I don't have another report, but I guess I'm still trying to learn how this whole system works. And you'll have to bear with me. My skin's thick enough. If I want to ask some questions that probably ain't supposed to be asked this time, just pipe up and say, we'll talk about that later or not at this time. Because I do have a bunch of questions. Did Catherine earlier say we're not going to the Public Works list project tonight? That we all got a copy of?
All right, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
We all got a Public Works project list here, was handed out to us or sent to us. Did you say we're not going over that tonight?
Oh, you can go over that if you want. I gave you all a list of the different projects, Jason.
Okay, well, on that list, just to, not to be nitpicky, but I guess that's the way I am. He's got the list going, I'm sure it's a rolling list, but he's got quite a few duplicates in there. He's just restating the same thing, so it looks like it's a massive list when it may not be as big as it is. And the other thing is as Mr. Vigil pointed out, on his priority list for the public works. We had that survey done, the safety concerns there to improve the garage and all that. And that's not even on his list to keep prioritizing that, working on that. I think that'd be on his list.
He's still required to work on that and has filed, completed several items because he has myself and Donnie right after him on it.
Okay.
Then we're joining that special program, which will do a lot more in that area.
Okay, the other thing I guess I'm gonna tweak me a little bit was, I see it says grade all roads, spring, summer, and fall as needed. And it lists a bunch of streets there. And one of those streets is the sewage treatment facility road, which that doesn't happen. So I don't know why we put that on the list. And then one of my little peeves is the Estelle Street down here for the poor individuals who live on that street. I know that that's not classified as a town maintained road due to it was not built to town specs, I've been told. Is that correct?
That is correct.
My question would be is who put the sewer in on that road and the water?
Well, I frankly would assume that the developer would have done that, but I do not know. So that is an issue, and that is an issue in other towns too.
Right, but I'd hate to have it come back in our face that the town put that sewer and water in, and now we're saying that's not our road, we're not maintaining it. That's a question, I guess. Like I said, if this is inappropriate to ask this at this point, just pipe up and say, we can talk about it another time. Or if somebody wants to talk to me one-on-one.
I'm gonna have to do a little research because I'm not absolutely sure, but this is a problem area for sure.
Right.
I had not run across this before I came here, but that street is not allowed for the town to maintain it because it never met town specs, but there is water sewer connected to the town's water sewer. So this is an issue. Yeah.
Okay. And along that same note, we're going with the grader around different streets. How much would it take just to periodically, once a year, just to go down that road for those individuals on that street? It's not very long. Was that 600 or 700 feet long? Just to at least grade the road for them.
I understand that is something that towns used to do, but are recommended by the Maine Municipal Association and the state that we not take the town's equipment out and maintain the non-town.
No, I mean, I could see that point. The other point, I guess I would have to say, this is me as a citizen, not as a counselor. If I lived on that road, is my taxes reduced the percentage that would go to maintaining roads of the budget? You see what I'm saying?
I understand. They are not, and we have had, and in my other town, I have gone out and had the assessor go look at these roads that are not maintained by the town and figure out should they be discounted for their value, so their taxes will be lower. And each time that we did it in my other community and did it here, the assessors did not find any price difference in that the properties that were roads that were not maintained by the town would end up having a lower value than the others. So the last time that we checked, the properties were still selling the same as if it had a town road or not. So you can't lower the taxes unless the value is lower.
Okay. All right. And then I have one other question. I know we keep saying we don't have the budget, et cetera. But yet, like Mr. Vigil pointed out, we know Puritan's coming in here and got these nice facilities now, and we're going to get a much larger jump in taxes from that. So I don't think it'd be that difficult for somebody give it a tax assessment right now and say, this is how much we're going to gain an increase. And is it feasible? And I'm talking way outside the boundary here, maybe, but can towns get a loan from a bank or something? So you could do more projects now, knowing that you're going to get more revenue and you can pay that right back by the end of the year when you collect your taxes?
That would be I'm gonna have to think about that. Generally, the revenue loans are done because of water or sewer, not because of taxes. I understand what the issue is. The council struggled with this last year on whether it should be increased or not. And in the discussions with the tax assessors, we couldn't get any advice whatsoever, and they were pressed quite a bit. And they're going to be pressed some more because we're going to write a letter telling them we want to know what the valuation is earlier than some of these other places, just so that we can know. I think next year we'll be happy as can be with our paving budget, because it'll be a lot higher, it'll be back where it used to be, and maybe even better than these lean years. But I would have to check on that. I'm not sure how we would do that. Probably we can, but
Just looking how you could get ahead of the curve instead of trying to catch it.
well, next year we'll definitely get, start going really good, because we should have sufficient funds for a really good paving budget like we used to have a long time ago, or even better.
Okay.
I'll think about that.
All right. I guess I've spouted off enough. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brent. Pete, did you want to add anything else before I finish off the night?
A term that was used years ago, I don't know if it's still used, is tax anticipation notes that communities used many years ago to answer Brent's question here just a moment ago. Is that still viable today?
For regular operating expenses, but the formulas that are used would be based upon showing that we wouldn't have enough revenue for our expenses that are budgeted. And so this is outside that scope. I understand where you're going here. I can do a little research and talk to a couple of banks.
Years ago, and perhaps that was old and antiquated because it was over 30 years ago, but that term and that process was used, Catherine. I don't know if it's still utilized today,
We use tax anticipation note when the town can prove that it doesn't have enough revenue coming in order to support its budget because its cash flow is so low. So there was one,
Right.
When I came here, you had them all the time, and then we fixed things so that we moved around the budget and how we budgeted the revenues, and we were able to generate a lot more and not have those. But a couple of years ago, we did have to have it because it was a lean year. And now we don't have to have it again. So I'm not sure if we could do that by saying that we wanted to pave more roads than what was in the budget. I'd have to do some checking. I understand what you're saying. Okay.
But I also expect that the evaluation of these facilities should be coming forthright within the next month, 6 weeks?
Oh, that would be good. We're going to have to work on that, and I may need some help from the mayor. I've been pressing for it now. It would be good to know it sooner rather than later.
And Catherine and I did discuss this exact thing earlier this afternoon. And I said, she's asked and she's talked to them. And I said, well, let's send them a letter, either from the council or I'll sign it with Catherine or whatever, to really try and push them to try and get that valuation done earlier. Because as Amanda was saying earlier, the earlier we can start our planning for next year's budget, the smoother it's going to go as far as the planning process. And if we do have large projects that we want to tackle, like paving, we can, if we know there's particular roads or larger projects, we can tailor that pre-work on this project list for Public Works. We can make sure that those things get done this year to make sure we can hit the ground running, start getting those bid specs in and all that groundwork done so that we're not kind of behind the 8 ball on some of these projects. So yeah, I think the council is certainly willing to sign on a letter requesting that the assessor does this work sooner rather than later, so we have time to actually do budgeting for it. But that's not to say this isn't a really big project, too large, not just one, but 2 large projects for them to go in and assess as well. So it's not something they're going to do in a day's time. It's going to take some time for them to do that, as far as the buildings and all the equipment and the valuations and stuff on that. So it's not going to be a project that's going to have a quick turnaround, but I completely agree, Pete, that we should try and get this work done as soon as possible in order to be able to have that planning start for next year.
It would be good to get done because we could have a party as well.
I think the council remembers me, especially I know Heather does, when I was indicating last year that I, said, well, just give me an estimate for the valuation so I'll know what we're going to be expecting next year so we can put out figures for the tax rate. And we finally that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything kind of hinges on getting that evaluation done. Our planning for budgeting, our project planning, the things that we might want to tweak what we're doing this year based on that, what we might be thinking of doing next year too. So, yeah, no, completely agree.
Could we put together that letter, and those of us who are, I mean, it could be the whole council, but could it be a finance committee thing too that goes
Yeah,
in?
the finance committee could sign off. Catherine, if you want to put the letter together, the finance committee can sign it next week.
That sounds fine. We can do that. And all we need to do until then is to keep a running total and then chop it off where it needs to be. So you could plan for all the projects that you want and then just keep on going. And then once we know the valuation, then we chop it off where it needs to be cut.
Okay. That sounds like a good plan. Anybody have anything else? Okay. I just have a couple of things. I want to thank the staff and the superintendent of MSAD 53 for coming in and talking to us about their 2021-2022 budget. And like I said before, I mean, it's amazing that they were able to get their budget to come in with so low with all the changes that they've had to have. And, that is going to be a huge deal for not having that increase this year. I want to thank Kleinschmidt and Chimbro for their help in moving forward the boat launch project. I know there's a lot of people looking forward to that project being put in on the river. And it's going to be a great draw for the town too, I think. Thanks to Annalise for, as always, having a very complete presentation. The information that they give us is right spot on, and she usually has all the questions answered that we ask. And so that's always appreciated as well. And a special thanks for her to being flexible with her time in changing that meeting as well. And we should probably let the school district know that we changed our meeting. I think that they had already left the meeting before we had that discussion. And the other, I guess that's all I have. The only other thing I want to say, and this is me as a local business owner talking now and not the mayor. I really need to hire staff at the farm store. So if anybody knows anybody that has, we've been trying to hire, we haven't found anybody yet. So we're hiring at the cheese shop. We need to hire a store manager. So if anybody's looking for a part-time job, send them my way. Pete, you're gonna come in and work for me at the shop?
Well, perhaps. I won't charge you anything to work. How's that?
We'll pay you in cheese.
No. Maybe with the farm critters, but you don't want me in the store. The question I have is when will the town office return to 5-day-a-week operation with full staffing? When will that happen?
I think we'd need more staff for that. Our Wednesday off is so that they can do admin tasks. And it's been working pretty good. We made that change before COVID. So that's not really a COVID thing. That was a change that we made the year before, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a budgetary thing. We decided to cut to 4 days a week.
Well, it was budgetary, but it was also trying to help the staff get caught up on items by not having people coming through the door. It was part of that strategy that we had, that if we could stop people coming through the door, that staff could have longer blocks of time to be able to work on items. That was one suggestion, to do the 4 days a week and then have an admin day in the middle of the week to catch up on things from the weekend and plan for the rest of the week, as well as having the online services. If people can register their cars, get their fishing licenses, do all those things without having to actually walk in the office, those things can be processed electronically and are not interrupting the work day for, say, the staff that's trying to do the sewer water billing or or anything like that. You know, it created more blocks of time for people to be able to do the administrative work of the town, because we are still short of staff in the main office. So that was kind of one strategy that we had to create that time without adding personnel.
If I remember correctly too, Heather, it was in line with similar towns of our size that they operate 4 days with 1 day closed.
4 days or less, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how many staff people are there?
Catherine plus 4, Catherine plus 5,
Yes, Catherine plus 5.
Catherine plus 5.
So when you say towns of our size, do the towns of our size have 5 plus Catherine? You know, do they have a town manager plus 5 employees, or are you just basing that off on population and not amount of employees?
I didn't actually do the study, but we're also running the water sewer department, which is usually in a district too.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would figure one person would go with the water sewer department and be in a different building.
So that's 4, and one's the town clerk. One is a finance, 2 are financial clerks, and then Emily is the treasurer, deputy treasurer.
Tax collector, yes.
Sorry, tax collector.
Okay.
Jason.
At one point, I think, did somebody say that Emily's also the human resources person?
She is. That's being switched over to the town manager and the office assistant. So they'll both be on HR. There's enough to do for 2 people.
So the town manager is also going to be the HR person?
I've always been HR person, but we're trying to get me away from that so I can more concentrate on the grants and the staff and everything. We can go.
It seems like it should be 2 separate
Oh, yes.
things to me.
I would be happy in person, believe me. I would be totally happy to not have.
Also
I
have,
mean, if my boss is the HR person, it's, I don't know, I just feel like this should be 2 separate.
yeah.
Oh, I would be happy in person. I would.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can talk about staffing levels again, you know, when we get into the budgetary stuff, we can discuss the budget, the staffing levels too. An HR person was something that Deborah had recommended, an office manager / HR. And then I thought we needed a bookkeeper, so we're not paying Catherine, you know, a rather substantial salary to do bookkeeping for the town. And it takes up a lot of time. And then, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's been floated around as far as staffing and trying to fill those gaps that have been left by, you know, not hiring people after people leave, you know.
Is that something we discussed for in the finance meetings?
We can discuss it in the finance committee meetings. We can discuss it as a full council when it comes to budget time. Usually those items, if you're talking about adding positions, it goes to the finance committee. They review it and then it goes to the full council. They make a recommendation one way or another.
Done as additional requests so that they don't mingle in the budget and get built in there. You want to compare apples to apples, and then you have your additional requests for these larger items or staff positions that are additional, so you can review them separately. So we can go over all the jobs and everything and how things are moved around.
All right, thanks.
I think, didn't Deborah do a staffing study with the jobs that needed to be done and who was doing them? And wasn't there?
Yeah, she did.
Okay, if that's something that's valuable for the council to see before making decisions and stuff, then we can share that with the councilors. If it's not something that's relevant because we've changed our staffing already, then maybe we would take another look at that.
We can use some of that. We can get that typed up as we get closer to that period of time.
Okay. Yeah, that can probably wait until later in the summer when after we look at the bigger budgets and the capital improvement type stuff. Does that sound good, Jason?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Does anybody want to go home? Anybody want to make a motion to go home?
I'll
I
make a
move we
motion.
adjourn.
Sure.
Look at how many people want to make motions. Right, I got Amanda and Pete seconding.
That works.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, we can all agree on that. All right, have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.